Okay, we are recording then.
Thanks, Betsy.
So,
Our
handbook.
friend, the handbook. Our
I
frenemy, the handbook.
now I'm like, as I went through this, it was clear to me why the prior school committee never adopted.
So I'm going to start with a question. I mean, unless some, yeah. Um, does anybody want to, like, I had this question within it, and we don't have to address this now, but I think it would help me to go back to sort of like, what do people envision as the purpose? Because there's a certain amount of language that is kind of welcome to school committee. But then again, I think we all find ourselves being like, it's in the handbook, or that should be in the handbook. So for sort of ongoing. And then there's the question of like, where does it become too much? Because there's like some of this information is in other places. So is it just links? But I guess that's just always the question, right? Is like the purpose and then level of detail. And
Yeah.
I'm sort of thinking of it, trying to think of it in the same way, which is also not a concept that I've mastered, but like when I was on policy last year and we had an early conversation with the principals and we had a conversation about like there's policy and then there's the school level handbook, which is sort of like the way I think of like mass general law and then regulations
Mhm.
promulgate the policy. So you have a policy and then you have a handbook that sort of tells you how to execute that policy, like nuts and boltsy. And those are just some random thoughts.
I like that approach because I like there to be the policy separate just because I think that people do better with less information, and I don't think that there's any reason to have something in two places. I think we've gotten as far enough as we went down the road of thinking we would have policy and handbook be one and the same. I have to observe that we've gotten over that hump, and Mariah was saying, like, this is probably not policy anymore. This is probably just a handbook. So
Mhm.
I think that given
Mhm.
that I'm seeing us tend towards that direction, in order to make the job smaller for us, I would love to see us decide that this is a handbook for all members, not just new members.
Mhm.
And I think that that would help us be more concise.
So, should we have a like welcome for new like there's a section that's like if you're a new member, like the onboarding section, but then there's just the like and for everybody else, like that makes clear that it's not like I guess my point is right now
Mhm.
there's a thing
Yep.
called welcome, which is
Right.
I think what you're saying. I'm just trying to map it onto the document, but
Yep.
that should essentially be consolidated with like, so you've joined the committee. Here's the 15 things that are going to happen to you in the next week. Like it should get
Yeah.
rolled in with that. Is that what you're
So
thinking?
what I did is I made a new draft and I had the draft start out with
Oh, you did? Where is that?
sorry, let me
I
send that to
sent
you
an
again.
email the other day, yesterday, maybe.
Oh, I'm ashamed to
No, no
announce
problem.
how many emails I have not read in the past week. It's a lot.
So let me say what I was going to say as I resend it to you. You probably already have it there too.
It was yesterday at 10:07. Sorry, go ahead, Sarah.
It's
Yeah.
called Copy
Yeah.
of School Committee Handbook, and I'm going to share it with just you, Marianne, because
Oh,
I think that Carolina always already has her
And
hands.
I admit I didn't open this because I didn't even get through where we were.
So this is what I did, and
Oh.
we don't have to use this. We can go back to just what we have. But I took what we had. I accepted a lot of the things that I wrote to Mariah. Let's accept this. Let's accept this. Once you've seen this, accept it. And I accepted all of those to kind of like make it a little bit more simplified. I kept
Yeah.
the other issues. And then I put roles and responsibilities at the beginning. And I
Mhm.
took out the language of welcome to the school committee, you're new. So there's two different ways to go. Maybe we just need to do a vote. Would we like to continue to try to reduce the redundancies in that first document? Or would we like to move on to the new document that has roles and responsibilities at the top.
I don't want, so the roles and responsibilities is in policy and is a section in the MASC policy. So I personally think that I don't necessarily want, let me put this a little bit of a different way. I don't want the same content in two places. And there's no like reason to say that exactly what we have in roles and response. It doesn't match what's MASC in general. The headings match, but the content doesn't. So, and I guess my question is, and maybe this is sort of what Carolyn's talking about too, like if it's over in policy, it's really pretty strict, whereas the handbook is more like guidance nudges as opposed to like something very firm. Like the handbook as I see is like things will go better for you if you do X, right? And like the policy is like this is like literally how the committee legally is going to work. Does that distinction resonate or no?
So I'm not, I should have and haven't because I thought it would just further confuse me. I haven't been sort of referring back to policy, even though we talked about that. So it's section B. And so I don't know.
I
I
just
need
need to
to
talk to
look at,
Rita for 1 second. I'll be right
sure.
back. You can keep talking. I didn't mean to say stop talking.
No,
Just
no, that's
okay.
okay.
So
So I'll say to you, Sarah, I haven't been referring to policy section B, and I probably should. Have you? I see. So like this is all this like this is how school committee meetings are run.
But I have to say, it's a new idea to me. What you guys are expressing is let's not have it. I might have just said that myself, but that is new as of right now to me, this idea of let's have it be in two different places. I I want to respond to Mariah about Mariah. I wanted to respond to you, Mariah,
yeah,
that while sorry if this sounds critical, while I accept the idea that a handbook is a more casual representation and a policy is more sort of like direct, I don't think that the language that we've used to try to soften, um, like, oh, has always worked. Sometimes it sounds a little bit degrading in the like, you don't really need to do this or some type of thing. I prefer straightforward language, but I'm with you in spirit. I like
but
that
but
idea.
I don't think I meant more casual language. I meant like the wording itself is not what I meant. What I meant was policy has more force of law behind it.
Yes,
Like
I'm
it's
on
not the
board with
writing.
that.
Okay, it's not the
I'm on
writing
board with
style.
that.
It's like
Yeah.
we like the committee is sort of bound to policy in a way that that a handbook has no authority.
And the language we have used in the handbook when you have tried to do that hasn't always been my favorite. But
Yeah.
but in the I'm
Wait, say more about that.
sorry,
Like,
the way that you personally happen to talk when you're trying to make it like a little bit more sort of casual hasn't always worked for me, the actual language that you've put in there,
yeah,
but in thought I'm with you. Like the
that's fine
approach.
too. I was just, a lot of it was literally me just trying to like get some ideas out. I think I wrote
Yep.
even a couple places like no pride of authorship. It was
Yep.
just to get some concepts out. That's a
And
beef
so
pie in
can
your
you
back.
give, I have
It
two
just came out. It might be Cora. Can
things.
you help Rita serve that thing? Oh, sorry. I thought I was on mute. My bad.
So that's okay. So two things, and I'll go back first. So, I'll take responsibility for this sort of roles and responsibilities suggestion because that was a suggestion I made and I referenced mask. And I think I still like that. Although none of this is a hill to die on for me, to be clear. Because I actually think that's the kind of thing that sometimes comes up, right? Like, is this in our purview? Who's supposed to, is this a superintendent thing? Is this a school committee thing? So that's where for me, the roles and responsibilities that sort of came from Mask, and I didn't read it, but I saw like, oh, this seems clear and seems to hit some points that I think come up sometimes. And also for me, um, like where you say having it in two places, Mariah, like that's fine if it's in Mask, but to me, that's like two places to me would be like our policy and our
I said
handbook.
it's all I was, sorry, I can tell I was super unclear because my brain is distracted. We tried to get a fridge today delivered and it couldn't fit through the door and they
Oh
had to send it
no.
back and my kids are all like, where's the fridge? And like,
Oh my
that was the
gosh.
background conversation that was happening. Yeah. So
Good
it
thing
was
it's
really
cold
annoying.
out.
I thought I'd measured the doors, blah, blah, blah. Anyways, so
Oh no.
yeah. Anyway, so, um, I don't mean that it's an MASC. I meant that our policy structure, it's not like we made up that roles and responsibilities should be in
Yeah.
section B. I meant that like not only do we have it, but MASC has it. So it's not something that I would say, oh, let's just pull it out and put it in the handbook.
But do we have it? And so
We
that's my
do.
other thing is now I'm looking at section B. And
Yes.
so there's two things like, and I'm not super familiar with section B, and it sounds like you are. And I also wanted to ask you, like, can you give an example of something that's like in section B that feels like too formal or legalistic that is also now like give the
So
parallel
what
in
I
the
did was
handbook?
I tried to not replicate section B in and I tried to point over, like for example, I would feel really comfortable with, let me give a proposal. We work on roles and responsibilities for what we want it to be. We propose it for section B as an update. And then the handbook says, hey, you should really go look at, like, you might not look at the whole handbook right now or the whole policy manual, but you definitely need to go look at roles and responsibilities because that
Is
is
there,
really important as you are like getting on board and living your life.
but is there not, but there's, so there's not roles and responsibilities in policy right now, is that correct?
There is.
Where?
I'm gonna find it. Hold on.
Okay.
It's totally here. Ugh.
Authority and I'm
Unless I'm like totally got myself so confused, but I could have sworn roles and responsibilities is here. I'm just scrolling to find it. Betsy, can you help me?
Oh,
I'm
you
looking
know what
right
it
now as
does
well.
have?
Yep.
It does have all of this.
Oh yeah, it's here in this is it school committee blah 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 relationship or that's a school committee and superintendent? But that's kind of it, right? That's the roles and responsibilities bit.
Can you give me a page number?
B blah, 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 19. I'm
And it
also
does
gonna,
say at the end that it was taken from MASC's
Ah, okay.
source, from in
Ah,
2005.
okay.
and I'm just gonna go find the online policy manual real quick. One
Policy.
moment. Oh wait, that's not the one I want. I want
Okay.
the online policy reference manual. And if you go to section B, I'll just show
Staff
you what Mask
collective bargaining,
has. Where is it?
professional development. So it's my bad if I made a suggestion. And I even gave the link to the mask page.
There's no reason to apologize because I actually see it the way that you do. But the problem is that you and I are both like, whereas Mariah is a little bit more sure of herself. Because I would say like, oh, two, outvote one. But Mariah has a vision, whereas you and I are both like, not a, sword to die on.
Yeah, but that's my personality as a steamroller. Like,
Staffing.
don't take that to the bank.
Well,
I
my
also just want to really confirm whether they are the same. Or
Well,
maybe the,
that's what I was saying is I'm pretty sure the headers are, but now I'm also wondering because here's what I did when I got, can I just tell you my process, which was I was like, okay, so I'm gonna look at like I took the version you and Betsy had worked on, which was section B. And then I was trying to merge that with some of the more colloquial, folksy other documents we had. And then I was like, well, if we're gonna, but then I started to hit things in section B that I was like, well, these really need to stay in policy because they're like sort of like this, like it was things like how we accept a resignation and like what the process, like those things can't live in a handbook. They really
No.
have to be formal, like, yeah, like processes that the school committee is agreeing to. So then I started pulling those out, and then I was like, well, let me go look at what MASC has, because if we're having to rebuild section B to like pull some stuff out and some stuff keep it, then I was like, let me work off of the headings that MASC has for B. So, and then I started looking though at the content, and some of our headings were the same, but the content was different. And it turned into, just so you know, like this document got up to like 98 pages. You can actually look at the history of like the version that I shared with you, the version 2. It got up to like 98 pages, and I was like, this is overwhelming. I can't detangle this. I'm too stressed out by
Yeah.
trying to figure out
Yeah.
section B. Let me like, and I was also trying to align this with the headings from and the content from the prior handbook that I thought had some useful stuff in it too. And I just couldn't see my own path forwards that
Yeah.
tried to like reasonably
Well,
incorporate section B and be a handbook. So I like I deleted out
Wait.
all of the section B stuff and just sort of like started clean with like, okay, I'm gonna work sort of on the headings that the old handbook had, and I added in some stuff that the more recent iterations of school committees had thought was important, like Dimitri's document, the communications norms, um, and I said, like, let me not try, like, maybe the thing to do would be if this structure works for us, then we go back and we say what things from B are really not policy, but have snuck into our policy manual, but
Right.
because we didn't have like, we didn't have the like
Right.
procedural aspect, the procedural pair, the way that schools have, like, there's like the way, there's the policy and then the procedure, since now we have a
Right.
procedures
Like cell
document.
phones, cell phones is a good example, right? Like the
Yes.
schools can decide, is it going to be a shoe holder or a lockbox or
Right. Yeah, exactly. So that was what I was like, and I know that like I spent a lot of I spent so much time. I think I alluded to this in my email. I spent so
you
much
do.
time trying to do this other thing, and then it got so overwhelming for me to process the amount of data. I boiled it back down. Um, so in a like, and maybe part of why I feel so sure is because I'm like reflecting on my own trauma of having tried to like touch policy and then feeling like, oh God, policy was a disaster to try and incorporate. So I don't know what to make of that. I'll
that
just
makes
say
it
that
no.
like my certainty about feeling worried about touching B was, or like my certainty about not wanting to touch policy was basically born of this whole experience, because I was very
Yeah, I think
gung ho before that.
I really take that to heart. I think that we have tried, not we, you did it, but it has given us a collective experience that it makes sense to have policy be a separate document. And so this, I would say, let's have a handbook that doesn't copy policy.
And I think what's important, one thing you said that's important just now, Mariah, is that there may also be things in policy that that aren't policy and aren't helpful in policy, shouldn't be in policy, and would be better off in a handbook.
And that's
But
what I
we
was
didn't have
thinking
a
was, could
handbook.
we could we, if we landed roughly on a structure for the handbook, then we could go back through. It's almost like flipping the experience of like, rather than trying to pull policy into handbook, like before we've created the handbook, it's like, let's make the handbook and then see if there's anything that we could clean out of policy. Yeah.
So for example, I'm looking in policy,
Yeah.
like, and also we don't, right, so that makes sense. What you just said, I agree with, because if we're trying to accomplish a handbook, we're probably best to just stick with that with a framework to the extent that we can of like what function we want it to have. Right. And then we can go back later. And if there's things that need to move out of policy into a handbook, that's fine. But I think it's, so for me, there's still just this struggle of like understanding what the purpose and use of it is will sort of determine the structure and the content. And for example, and you guys might not, this is a question really, like page 5 of section B, the code of conduct,
That does
is
overlap.
that really policy?
Right, exactly. So I pulled that over into ours thinking,
Yep.
I don't like, I sort of, again, like I was like, I really feel like that's not a policy necessarily. I'm not sure though. I mean, again, this is all for up for discussion.
I mean, I guess, and I'm just gonna like put my naivete on the table. Like in a way, I'm almost tempted to Google like what is policy versus a handbook and let AI tell me. Because policy is a funny thing, right? Like policy is not law, but it's pretty strict. Like it's sort of it's not mass general law, but I consider policy sort of on par with like law, not legal, but like really shoulds of like this is how we do things. This, you know, like I think violating a policy to me, um, like if something's done outside of the bounds of policy, I'm really like, oh, that is like really not okay. And then handbook to me is sort of how what you were saying. Like, I might not put it the same way, but like things are not, I wouldn't put it as things, although I agree with the statement, things are going to go better for you if you do things this way, but sort of just like, here's how things go in practice. More
Here's
like
what Claude
practice.
says. I asked Claude because I liked the
Who's
idea of just
Claude?
Claude is it's by Anthropic. It's Northeastern has a partnership with them, which is why I just asked it. But
Okay.
it's the it's like Chat GPT, only it's the
Claude.
one, yeah, Claude. So I just asked it that kind of question. It says handbooks better choice. And I like this sort of differentiation. It's like policy manuals tend to be more formal, detailed reference documents that outline specific procedures, compliance requirements. I don't know about the operational protocols, but okay. Consulted less frequently. And the handbooks are, I like this idea of like
Yeah.
the more frequently because it ties to what
Right.
you were saying, Sarah, about like this isn't the document you read in your first week and then throw away. It's hopefully something that like you
Right.
might refer to.
Yep.
Okay, so I wrote down a handbook, we believe is less formal than policy. Um, a handbook is consulted more frequently. What else do you want to? I'm just putting this right into our document.
It's really, to me, it's sort of like how do you do things? Like part of what I find helpful in the handbook is the section on like email protocol, because this comes up all the time. Like if you get an email, like who should you send it on to? Who should you not send it on to? You know, don't call a principal when somebody complains, like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um,
The
which is
other thing I like about what this said was, and this is sort of a little bit like we're talking about, it says if your code of conduct is brief and focuses on expectations and values, put it in the handbook. If you have detailed compliance policies, reporting procedures, or legal regulatory requirements, you might include the core principles in the handbook and the detailed procedures in the policy manual, which we don't like have that, like there's no like if someone has violated the code of conduct, go to, like do not pass go directly to jail. There's no censure mechanism for code of conduct that would be tied to this. And then it says some organizations do both, a concise, readable version in the handbook with a reference to the more detailed policies in the manual. But this is all making me think it really belongs in the handbook.
That is so funny. I never know where you're going until you say your conclusion. Never.
It's so, okay, huh.
Some child is at the door. Hold on.
Oh, I thought you meant at my door for a second. That's just the day I'm having.
oh my God, the child will fit through the door. So, okay, so we probably, I mean, this is important. And at the same time, should we start looking at some, well, there's the question that Sarah started with, which is a fundamental question at this point, which is like, which document do we want to now work from?
Yes.
And then should we how do we proceed from here?
Sarah, can I ask a clarifying question there? So beyond the, you added the roles and responsibilities, like the division of labor between school committee and superintendent there. Which I also can live with, like, it's okay with me if it's there. I think it, like, MASC wants it to be, but we could put it over here. But like beyond that, are there other huge changes you made, or was that the big change? Can you just walk us
So-
through anything else you changed?
So what I did is
Yeah.
I put any reference when Carolyn was going through and she was saying, you know, does this make more sense does this make sense to be here? Shouldn't we have the roles and responsibilities up front? I checked off those comments and I put it there. And then every other comment I have written to you at Mariah, I think we should accept this one. And those are the
Hmm.
ones that I accepted. And then I kept the other ones. I think that we sort of have, I thought we had gone down the road of saying we're not going to use that second document. So I think we just stick with the first
But
document.
no, I hadn't gotten there
Okay.
because I think the more I'm talking about this, I'm willing to flex. Like if we're starting to pull stuff if we're starting to think about what things we've and as a 3-person group are recommending that we pull out of section B already, that if you two feel, and I'm sort of on the fence, but if you two feel that roles and responsibilities, like that division of labor between superintendent and the school committee really goes in the handbook, like, let's do that. That's okay with me
Well-
too.
So I should jump in. So I'm not sure, but I can think about it, that when I suggested potentially having the roles and responsibilities in our handbook, that I was thinking about it as division of labor, but like, in fact, I was just gonna say, do we need all the superintendent parts?
Hmm.
Because this is,
Yeah, I think that that's
I
still
mean, you
on the
could have
table.
in each one, like, at the under school committee, you could have like versus superintendent linked to mask. I just fear having like so much
Yeah.
content.
But let's put that aside because I do think that we could consolidate that. Let's just like as if we were going to vote something. Do we think that we want to start out with roles and responsibilities in our handbook? That's the question on the table.
I think I would like roles and responsibilities in the handbook. I am agnostic at this point on order because there's, for me, still so much content that I am not decisive about what comes where.
Okay.
But somewhere near the beginning, I think it makes logical sense, but
Okay.
not a hill to die on for me. So I'm,
So other than adding the roles and responsibilities and accepting the things that you were like, yeah, this makes sense of Carolyn's comments, did you make any other big changes, Sarah?
Yes, and
Okay.
I took out any reference to this being to somebody who's new to school committee.
Oh, okay.
And then I started to say like, this is what needs to be deleted if we go this route, but I didn't delete it yet.
Okay, but all those comments are in the prior version too, right?
Yep.
Okay.
and I still made a few more comments
That's what I'm confused by
even
is
this
like,
afternoon.
yeah,
I was trying to keep plowing through it. So would it be possible, would it mess up sort of the track you were on, Sarah? Would it derail the direction you were going in to just take the roles and responsibilities and put it in the previous document? Or is there,
Sure. We can do that.
okay.
only because I think we had,
Why don't you go ahead and do that now? You can go
Let
to,
me take what you did and move it over. Hold on one second.
let's not be in the just be very clear. We're not in
Yeah.
copy of, we're in the original
Yeah,
document.
exactly.
And we're not going to look at copy of anymore.
I'm just gonna, because
So
you formatted the text well, so I'm just gonna take what you did and drop it into the other one. I just love when people actually use the styles, so thank you.
Ugh, my lack of technological knowledge is so, it's embarrassing. Like, I barely know how to use this, like, track changes. Like, I was like, how does Sarah get those things where it says delete and replace?
Mhm.
Like, I
You
don't even
just
know
use
what.
suggesting. Don't you know how to use suggesting or no?
We should show you if you don't know. 'cause it's
Yeah.
super easy.
Suggesting. No, it's on suggesting. And ultimately, I figured it out that if I just press delete, but I think I was afraid to press delete. I didn't want to delete
Oh,
somebody's
yeah.
stuff. I didn't want to delete someone else's. I wanted to suggest, and I didn't know that. I mean, it really just shows you like how very, very small my life is.
So, not necessarily, but here's one question I have though, like, should the headers be roles and responsibilities for school committee and superintendents? Or like, is really role and responsibility for school committee and we
I
sort of
think it's
like,
school committee roles and responsibilities.
yeah, and then the superintendent part is just like, it's to show, it's almost like in opposition, oh, it's not, it's different than that other thing. But we don't name that it's for and superintendents. Now, what happens, again, I'm just playing devil's advocate. What happens if a superintendent comes along and is like, but your policy manual doesn't have any responsibilities for me?
Yeah, no, that's not going to happen.
I think that's fair. I don't understand. Do superintendents have like, there's no necessarily like a job description that they are working against. I know this is addressed in the
Not that
contract.
elaborative one. There are accepted responsibilities of the superintendent, but you're right that it's not at that level. The way that I would proceed now is I think that it doesn't make sense to go through and delete all that superintendent. I think that that deserves a good edit because there might be, like, I think what I would do is I would take it out of.
Oh, I wasn't going to delete it. I
Yeah.
was just going to take it out of the header. I think it's really important because it helps
So
people
I will-
understand where the line is.
I will spend the time to work in if any of the part given to the superintendent needs to be done. But I think what I would do is I would probably put this stuff over not being bulleted because it doesn't need to go under a school committee heading, right? And I'm
Oh,
not
right.
to all of this yet. But then
Right.
what I would do is while I was formatting like that, I would read what it said about the superintendent and see if any of that needs to be put in before I delete it.
I don't want you to delete the superintendent thing. I think I personally like, I would like to say like as you have the policy thing, I like the idea of like, that's the school or like, it's clear that like, this is the school committee responsibilities. And then it's like, in comparison, these are the superintendent responsibilities. Or compare this with the superintendent role or something like that. Or your
Okay.
role is not to be the superintendent who does this or something like that. So like,
Yeah. Okay. But then but you're saying something different than the way it looks currently.
I haven't, so if we look at what page
I
is
understand
this?
what you're saying, Sarah. And
4.
like it could even be, this is just spitballing. Like it could say like parentheses versus superintendent and
Exactly.
list, and it could even just list the, although I like bullets, but like it's
I
almost
personally
like,
like the bullets too,
okay.
or whatever it is, but like, um,
It's almost an afterthought
that's
because what
right.
we really want to convey is our responsibilities. But counterpointing it to the superintendent stuff is really helpful. And for me, it gives me a clearer view.
Yes, me too. Something like that. Like these are the role, this is your job in policy, whether you make it a bulleted list or like if there's room for bullets, I prefer that because I have like walls of text are hard to read. So
Yeah.
however you
But
want to
I
format
like what
that, so
you
I
were saying,
find
Sarah. You're right, Sarah, that each one doesn't need to say school committee because that's implied.
exactly, yes,
So
that I
I
agree
like
with.
that. I totally agree with. And then
And
do
somehow the
you
finance word got the formatting disappeared, but we'll sort that
All
out.
right, I'm working on that right now.
Oh,
That's
okay,
what I'm trying to
perfect.
do.
and I
I'm trying to
guess
get rid
for
of the
me,
page break.
and I don't care if you guys want to work on order sort of early on. For me right now, there's so much, and I'm still kind of digging through what's even in here that like for me, I can live with like, let's just keep working on the content and figure out the order later. Like this might even end up for me being something I probably need to print out and then be like, lay it out and be like, because it's difficult for me on the laptop because it's so much and I kind of need to see it. I might print it everything out, lay it out and be like, oh, these are the parts that are repetitive. This should go here. So I'm just putting out there that like I don't we might understand better how we want the order to be later.
Okay.
Can I jump to something else? Or should we?
Yeah, I think seeing that I do want to work for like another half hour and then be done. I think
Yeah.
that I've gotten enough information to attempt to do that. The worst part is just the formatting is so messy that I can't get
Yeah.
rid of like this page break right here. But
yeah.
other than that, I think I got what you guys want. And yeah, let's go into something new.
I'll just sort of throw out. So like I said before, for me, things that are helpful are these things like I'm now on page 13, section 10.3, requests for information from staff. So for me, that's important information. I also feel like that there's like a few different places and ways that general topic is addressed. So
Yes.
I hope we end up with something cleaner. But I
Right.
do think it's important and it's the kind of thing, right, that like keeps coming up, like,
Yep. That's the type of thing that if I spend, an hour on this, I can help us with.
okay. And then I'm gonna
Sorry,
say,
can you repeat the part about what you were just talking
okay.
about? Sorry, I had a kid
I
having
was just
questions.
saying that I think like section 10.3, request for information from staff. I
Yeah.
think this comes up someplace else and maybe it comes up under communication norms. So I would love to have that kind of guidance. So again, and this is a word I started to use in some of my comments, I think, like for me, it's helpful to have a handbook for guidance, like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
what am I supposed to do? Like I have something I want to talk to someone about, but I don't want to do the wrong thing or step on any toes. So how am I supposed to do that again? So it's guidance. Um, I do think the like communication with staff comes up in a few places.
Yeah.
And it would be good to just get it into one place, whatever you want to call it, whether it's procedural or a norm or whatever. And then I'm going to say something else that's totally unrelated. This whole section 10.4, I was sort of like, oh, now you're losing me. Like, I don't really want a handbook to tell me how to think. Like, I can read a book about like this
Yeah, I think that
starts
has
to
to
feel
go.
That's
pedantic.
totally fine. I
Yeah.
thought it was interesting
Okay.
from the old handbook and was sort of trying to
Okay.
like glean like wisdom people were sharing, but I do not care if it stays.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. I didn't know. Okay. Good. Because I thought you guys might
I
like
love that
that part.
section and I'm willing to die on that hill. No, I'm not.
Sorry, so where is that? I've just lost that.
We're
It's
just getting.
thinking about issues, it's 2.5.
2.5, okay.
The one thing that I did like in this one actually, um, is, and I didn't really like the part where it gets to like effective school committees follow rational decision making. But what I did like, and maybe this ties to the bit about roles and responsibilities, is that first paragraph about theoretically the school committee makes policy and the superintendent makes administrative decisions, but there's blurry bits. So that paragraph is the one I was like, oh, I like that paragraph.
And I didn't understand it, which doesn't
Like,
mean it can't be in there, but
yeah. But I guess that my taking of it is that like policy people like to think that there's a stark line between policy and practice. But the
okay.
reality is that your policy is essentially going to often define your procedures or your practice, and your procedure or your practice might really actually have like policy implications. So they really like there's like a level at which they really start to bump up against each other and you can't detangle them. Um, and so it's
Can
like
you give
important for
an
people to sort
example?
of have a more subtle,
Yeah, I have
uh,
an existential problem with all of that. Like I spend a lot of time thinking about that because when you're managing a group of people, you can't always just be directive, right? Practice really happens out of what people buy into and what they, especially when you have people that are dealing with young people, right? Young people are so complex. So the practitioner has their way of going about things that works. And they're not going to be running over to the policy book and be like, should I do this or that? Like, they're like,
Exactly,
no.
exactly.
Like, I've got 15 million decisions I'm making right now in the next 3 minutes, and I'm going to go with that, And
Yeah.
so sometimes policy feels like not even important to me, right? It's if it doesn't grow up from that real practice, if you're not talking to the practitioner.
Exactly. So policy, like if policy is relevant, it has to like for policy to be relevant, it has to have like at some point there's a blurry boundary because if it somehow gets over to this idea of practice, right? Like if the cell phone manual had said like I don't know. I'm trying to think of some like if the cell
Yeah,
phone
yeah, no,
manual had
whatever.
said students are supposed to have their phones at all time and talking to people, like I don't know. I'm just trying to be like I really give a
Yeah,
dumb
yeah, whatever
example.
the ridiculous thing is, if something
Exactly.
appears
If
to
it
be
doesn't
ridiculous
work,
to
it's not happening.
the
Yeah.
practitioner is going to be like, yeah, right,
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So,
So,
and I don't mind if this stays in. I still don't understand it. And it's
mm,
super interesting to me listening to you guys who both have some understanding of this. And to me, it sounds completely esoteric. And it's interesting too. And maybe Sarah, since you just went back to the classroom, you might, I'm guessing you really have like classroom on your mind, right? And it's so interesting. Now you're a school committee member and you're going back to the classroom. So I'm guessing you have like a lot of really interesting thoughts going on. So, and I guess for me, like, so when you started talking about practitioner, I was like, oh, right. Cause I don't even really think about that because we're a governance body. So, like, I don't like, I just assume teachers are doing their thing. It's not my business.
I'll give a
So I,
different example though that
okay.
this has come to the school committee. So remember when Jim Marini decided that buildings were going to be closed?
I
That
remember, yeah.
Yes, it was like 2021 or something like that, Carolyn. We had the pandemic. People used to be able to go, parents used to be able to pick up and drop off in the buildings, and now you
Yeah.
can't pick up and drop off in the buildings anymore.
And
So
that
that
was a
was an
Jim Marini
administrative
decision.
decision that had
Okay.
quite a bit of policy, right? Essentially, it was saying that our buildings are not, like and so the point is that if we were to come up with a policy, and we've also actually all been thrashing through this recently of, what is our building use and access policy, given this administrative decision that, we've pushed back on and building principals have said very clearly, like, do not, like, this is an administrative decision that they want to stay. So how does a policy how is a policy crafted if we were to craft a policy that says buildings need to be, parents need to be let into the buildings or have access to the hallways,
Oh,
right, from 7:30 to 8:30, or students need to be in the building starting at 7 a.m. or whatever it is, it would not be adhered to. So that's the point of like administrative decisions having policy effects and policy, like there is like, right, like that's the sort of,
okay.
yes,
Yeah, I
the
understand.
gears where the gears start to engage at a very, like, this won't work if we don't do this right level.
That makes sense. And again, if you guys want to keep this in, that's totally fine. And that's interesting. I'm
No,
thinking
I already
about
said I
the
think it needs to
line
go.
somewhere else about, which I think we'll talk about too. Um, School committee meetings are meetings that are public but not public meetings. But let's talk
Mm.
about that when we get to it. I feel like it's a bit of a who's on first for me. Um, but I'm glad you guys both like this paragraph and understand what it means.
Okay, so we can delete out the rest of that thinking about issues thing, but we can move that one into the roles and
Find a place
responsibilities
for it.
section. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay, I'm just gonna drop it in the front and you can do with it what you will when you rearrange that bit. And I'm gonna get rid of thinking about issues altogether.
Thank you. And then there's a couple places too.
Wait, can we talk about meetings in public versus public meetings?
Where is that?
I
Can
think
we
it's
go
in
to
the
it?
roles Is it in roles and norms? I'm pretty sure it is
I
in
made a
roles and
lot, and I
norms.
know I made a lot of comments, but I just was,
I'm sorry, I understand that one.
It's the last one in roles and norms under the
what
first
page
section.
is it on? Can you give me a
11, the
page?
very bottom of page 11.
Okay.
And so a public meeting is one that the public can participate in. And a meeting in public is essentially a committee meeting in public where people can observe versus participate. So that's the difference.
And where, sorry, what bullet number?
Bottom of page 11.
Oh, okay. I'll
Yeah.
tell you why I struggle with this statement. Because it is a public meeting. I mean, maybe there's another way to put this. And to me, that's really important. Like, it is a public meeting, and that's why we have to follow the open meeting law. Like, it is technically, and like
No, it's a meeting held in public, not a public meeting. A public meeting, like by definition, is one that the public can participate in and that they could ask questions, they can comment on the topics.
Oh,
Like, we don't do
lost you.
that. Are you frozen? Can you hear me still?
I can.
Okay, Carolyn, you're frozen. Oh, you're back.
Oh, you were freezing for me for a second, so it must be
Okay.
my internet.
Did you hear what I
So,
was
and
saying
guess
about
what
the
you're-
difference?
Yes, but
Okay.
I guess I want to kind of look that up, because for me, the whole thing of open meeting law is that it's, I mean, maybe open meeting law applies to meetings of public bodies. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
And that a public hearing is when,
Exactly. And that's
Okay.
why on advisory, you know how they're like, we are now opening the public hearing. And then they
Yeah.
close the public hearing. And that's because
Yep.
that's the part of the meeting that's the public meeting as opposed to the meeting held in public.
Okay.
Yeah. But I wonder if it should be reframed like the meeting, unless otherwise noticed, it's a meeting held in public, not a public hearing. That might
So
help.
to me, that would be clearer,
Okay.
because I'm on the school committee and I didn't even understand this. And it feels like someone's trying to be cute and say something
you're
that
right.
I don't understand what they're trying to say.
Yeah, I think you're right that there was a bit of like cuteness as opposed to, but then it made the meaning,
And it
the
feels a
meaning got
little
lost.
I feel like it's one of those things that leaves me just like, what are you trying to say? Just say it. Like, if you want to say something, just say it.
Unless noticed as a public hearing, a school committee meeting, is not a public meeting.
But, and then here's a question too, and again, there's probably nothing in here that is going to be a hill to die on for me. But why does we have to have, if we're not the public, we're on school committee, so why do we need to understand that our meetings are not public hearings? Do you know what I'm saying?
I do know what you're saying, but I think it's the part, and I think you're right, this whole section or this one could be reworded, but it's like they need to be efficient meetings. Like if say every time the public says like, that's not true, then the meeting got derailed or someone in the public said, I want to comment on blah, blah, blah. Like, have you been to our school committee meetings when for whatever reason that has happened? It
I've
it
probably
really
seen
slows down
meetings where
things.
that happens. And then I guess I assume the chair gavels and
Not
takes
always.
control.
And that's when things like,
Yeah.
once you open
That's
up
why
the
it needs
door
to be
to it,
said.
then it's like really unfair because why
Yeah.
did 4 people get to talk and then the 5th one's like tries to talk and all of a sudden the chair's like, too much, we can't have any more public comment. That's just not
Right.
fair, I
Or
think.
like
to
if
the-
You're
if a
saying
third
that the
if a
that the
third party, sorry.
that the reason it should be in our handbook is that you want members to understand when that circumstance happens, this is why the chair might gavel, or we need to work together and be in agreement about how our meetings shall be conducted and not. That's why you think it needs to, my question still is like, okay, that's interesting and important, but why is it in?
I guess the way I'm thinking, because like your questions are well put. And to me, the takeaway of that section was make sure our meetings are run efficiently. Like everyone gets like everyone should show up understanding that like we're going to try to adhere to our times. Like we're going to do public comment at a certain time. It's respectful to all participants to not have like random public comment. Some people aren't allowed to, and that we end on time. We don't make people, if we said we're gonna end our meeting at 9:30, it kills me every time that we run off schedule, particularly when we run past the end of the night. And so that's what I think, to me, the critical part of that meeting, of that sentences, is like our meetings should be run efficiently and on time, and like we welcome public, like if you somehow engage with the public, it starts to like contribute to that. But maybe that part about the public doesn't need to be there. It's just like respect the timing of the meeting and like
But
live to it.
but it's not just timing. I mean, it's exactly everything that you said. And it's also, if you were to have a third party come in that's not the parents of school children and community, nor is it school committee members, and they are allowed to speak and sort of testify to something and they weren't on the docket, that's not right either, right? Like there's,
Yes.
it kind of, it's a point that precludes so many different things. And to my mind, it is kind of clear is that this is a meeting held in public for all the reasons that you've said, plus we're in control of the content. We're the ones that this is our time to do this work, because we don't get to, because of open meeting law, do this at other places. We are here to do this work now,
That's such a good point. Like our hours together are limited. We have to treat them as precious.
Yeah.
So, and again, all of that makes sense to my mind, like, and what you're saying makes sense too, Sarah. I mean, this is my second year on school committee. I haven't seen like some, like, I don't know, Raul Fernandez doesn't come in and start shouting in the middle of meetings. I'm using that as an example because he's not a parent and whatever else you said. But I don't know, it's just like if a random person started talking, then I assume the chair would gavel it.
But they haven't always. That's the point. It
Okay,
is,
then
yeah.
that's on the chair, and I still don't see where that becomes sort of a handbook thing. Efficient, and I would see, and I also don't, I actually would see this sort of like, I can see it being in the handbook that you want us to all be on the same page in terms of public comment is limited to the public comment time. But like that's there. I don't know. I still don't, it's sort of like, what is that? Like, we have a thing about public comment. We all know the guidelines of public comment. Efficiency makes sense. I could see that being a bullet. But I don't see where like a handbook about what the school committee is, why we'd have a thing of like a random person can't come in and start shouting. Because that doesn't have to do with us. Like
That's
there's
why I'm
lots
going
of
back
things
to
that
the
we don't
committee
want to
meetings
happen.
are effective and efficient. But also, I will say that there have been times that our chair decides to suspend that rule. And I find it, I'm not saying our current chair, because I don't think Val has done this yet, but I could be wrong, but chairs in the past have. And I find it incredibly infuriating. And so to the extent that our chair needs to also be held to like account to by the committees, like this is a rule. We have a process.
So do we want to have a section and this, and maybe it is in here somewhere and I haven't gotten to it yet. Like, is there something in here or policy about the chair? And also that reminds me, is there something in here about docket meetings?
There is something in there about, yeah, it's
Okay.
explained. Yeah. I would say that like my thinking about it is it's not just the chair. And I'll give an example of something that I am guilty of, which is sometimes people say things in public comment. And even though we're not supposed to respond, I respond, but it's not necessarily one person, right? But like we might make something and we don't have to do that, right? Like, and it starts to disrupt the flow, and then that person wants to comment back or add additional, like it's a bad habit that we shouldn't do, and it's not all on the chair.
But it's not I mean, you're saying you've done it. I
Yeah.
can't remember a time you've done it, and I certainly wouldn't characterize you as having that as a habit.
I didn't say, I don't think I said I have a habit, but I have done it.
Mhm.
Um, so
And that's
Uh,
covered in public comment.
it is, it's covered in the public comment policy, which I think should stay in policy. I don't know if that's in 2. I can't remember. I think that is in 2 or B, not 2.
So
Um,
this section is roles and norms. The school committee will. So again, like, and this is just what we talked about this a little last year, and I remember at the time thinking like, someone's trying to say something here that they're not just saying, and so, or if it's about in response to like some discrete event that happened one time, I can understand people having a response to something that happened one time and maybe wanting it to not happen again. But I'm not convinced that that's norms of school committee.
see, I disagree. I think this is like one of the most important things is like, you might come to the committee with your own set of experiences, but you can't let your parochial interests guide your participation, right?
So are we still on this bullet about public meetings?
I just wrote on that one, something still to wordsmith. I made a comment on it as we went along. I don't think we necessarily, like my goal for this is that we come to a first draft that we at least agree on like the basic structure of, if not of every word. And then we get input from the committee, like, are we even on the right track? I don't want to make some like perfect product or quote unquote perfect product. And then like the committee be like, this was not what we were thinking at all. I don't know. Does that work for the both of you? Sarah, what do you think?
Yep, that
Yeah.
works.
Because
And
like they might say, I'm just giving one example, like the rules and norms that you're asking about too. Like, what if we spent all this time on it and the committee was like, we don't even want that section at all? Well, like, let's not even waste our time on it, you know?
Yeah.
okay.
I would like to, like, things to me that are important are, as I'm thinking about this right now, like making sure that we sort of have content in every section, or not. I'm okay with that not. Making sure that the sections are more or less what we're hoping for. Agreeing among the 3 of us that we're okay or not okay. And if we're not okay, then we need to figure that out. But like, okay with having a separate roles and responsibilities versus roles and norms versus member code of conduct. Like, how we deal with that idea that there's like many different, this, I won't say, I hate the term skinning a cat, but like, you know, this idea has been dissected in multiple different ways. Should we consolidate or not? That might be something we take to the full committee for guidance on.
Yeah,
You know?
we're never going to get through it if we approach it that way. I think it's much better to be concise, to get rid of redundancies, and to show a completed product than to try with a group of 9 to ask,
No, I wasn't saying to them like tell us like like let's do this a group, but saying to them, do you prefer to have different ways of thinking about this issue so that different people have different thinking styles and one might resonate than another, or do you think we should have, to your point, one clear set of roles and norms that we stick to, and like then say leave it all random, give us one set, then we go ahead and if it's the latter, we go ahead and consolidate. Like I want a sense of the committee, not them wordsmithing along with us, if that
I
makes sense.
think I agree with Sarah here that it's going to make more sense for us to do. I think there's still a lot of consolidation that can happen here before we bring something to other people.
I think so too, but on that particular whole area, I'm not sure.
I
Well,
think
I
it
mean, it's up to
has
you
to
all. If you want to
have-
do that, okay.
It has to have something, and maybe, you know, I can also take a stab at some, but maybe we should talk about how, right, there's roles and norms, code of conduct, and there's in the I mean, I think what matters in the end more is the bullet points, and then we can decide what it's called, whether it's called norms or code of conduct. Like those are kind of different words for the same thing, but the content and the guidance.
Yeah, I wasn't suggesting that the top level thing mattered. It was more like, are you trying to consolidate? And if the two of you want to consolidate, I think that will break my brain, and I would love to just stay out of that and let you two figure out like how to consolidate. So make decisions there, whether you do it after one after the other, or I also feel like I feel too, I like too much that's there. I don't think I can do, the reason I'm fighting that is I can't, like, I'm one of the people who actually would appreciate multiple perspectives on it. So I don't think I can be good at,
Oh.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
which is okay. I don't like, if I did, what I imagine I was a future school committee, what I don't know existed won't hurt me. Like, if we come up with something good, that'll be great.
There is so much in here. Oh my God. Because we are talking about this like esoteric stuff, like a meeting in public is not a public meeting. And then I'm scrolling down and it's like parking.
Yeah.
Um, so again, I want to be sort of flexible, helpful, not step on toes if other people are committed to doing certain things. Sarah, what's your, I would be perfectly happy to sort of, I can envision myself printing out a bunch of stuff, all of the places where we have norms, code of conduct, roles and responsibilities, and at least trying to sort of put it together and then suggest some edits. Unless Sarah, you feel like committed to doing that yourself.
No, that sounds great. You want to
Okay.
take the next go at it?
I can try that.
And if you want to leave in some stuff, sort of like Mariah's style, I can then help you out afterwards.
Okay.
And if you would both prefer me to just point out redundancies instead of get rid of them, I can do that too. But what I need is I need like a clean document to start with, like where we've dealt with like the sort of smaller issues.
Yeah.
And then I'm able to highlight for you and point out redundancies. Like I can put into
Yeah.
one comment like, oh, look, this is spoken about here, and I can put number one in the comment. And then later on in the document, when it's mentioned again, I can say
Yeah.
see number one above and highlight it and tell you which of the two I would recommend to delete or rewrite.
Okay.
I'm happy to do that, but
Okay.
I can't do that on top of all of our other thinking.
Yep. I'm thinking that I'm going to pull out everything that's in that realm and create a separate document that can then
That I can then
later
help you
be
out with
shifted.
later.
Okay.
Does it also help, like, because I wrote it or I sent you the document on Monday or whatever it was, and then I had no time to go back and look at the comments you both made, but on the ones at least that Carolyn, you made, and Sarah said, I agree, like, assuming I'm on board too, should I just go through and like, I think it's helpful to start to,
That would be
yeah,
super
commit.
helpful.
Okay, so I will commit to doing that, probably not today,
Okay.
but like tomorrow, if that's okay. What I also would find helpful if you both are willing to do this is like, why don't, if it's possible, and I'm happy to help with the formatting of this, or you could even do it like, but keep it all in this one document right now. If we're sort of on board with like, these are roughly the headers, like, then we can make like a, like, even if you do it at like the very bottom, like Carolyn, where you rewrite, or just like in a new section, you're like, here's my new consolidated whatever. You don't have to worry about the formatting of it, but like keep it all in one place so that we're working off of like, at least for now, one document. Is that okay?
I think it's okay, except like I just get freaked out by all this scrolling. Like
But you're
it's,
just working and consolidating section 2, right? Like, I guess my point is, even if you have, well, it's okay. It's fine. Do whatever works for you.
but I hear what you're saying. I mean, there's a danger. Maybe I'll change everything that, for me, process wise, it might help me to have a separate document. But I can take everything that I move into a separate document and change the color of the font to green or something. I just want to
Mhm.
know when I come back, what did I mess with?
But you don't have to change, you just hit suggesting. I'm going to show you this so that you understand how it's working. So like, you know how track changes exists in regular Word documents?
Yeah.
Okay,
Where
so
are you?
hold on, I'm pulling it up. See how right here, editing, of course, stupid Zoom just put our stuff in front of it. Editing means you just edit. Suggesting, once you toggle that to
Yeah,
suggesting,
that's
it's
where I
like,
am.
yeah, so if you do that, then it will show your text right there as like, it'll be right there.
Yes, and that's what I was working in. I just, okay,
Okay.
I'm gonna do it the way that I think I have to do it.
Okay. Or like, but if you have a whole section that's brand new, you can just be like, this is my brand new section and just
Yeah.
accept it, you know, like it's more to edit the existing text.
Mariah, would you be willing, once you do the little edits, to
Yeah.
hand it off to Carolyn by just writing her a text or an email to say, I'm done? And then
Yes.
during the time that Carolyn has it, you and
Okay.
I will both stay out of it. So,
Can I make one other comment? Somehow, I don't think this was me, but I'm not sure. Section 5, which I thought was blank on subcommittees, now has all of the wording from policy in it about subcommittees.
yeah, so I thought that that was fair game because you said at a different point, fill in the rest of this thought. And so I
Yeah.
thought you wanted that too. So I put that in for you.
No, I was thinking not because I don't want to replicate policy.
Okay.
I was
Well, that was
thinking more
before
like,
now
it
I
was
know
more
that.
like how do subcommittees work? How, you
Yep.
know, like, is there different, how
You can
does
go
the
ahead and
agenda
you can go ahead and
setting,
delete
like,
that. That's fine.
okay,
I know that now, but I didn't know
yeah.
that before.
Um,
Wow. There's a lot of stuff in here.
it is a lot of stuff, but right now
Oh,
it's
it's good though.
27 pages.
That's not terrible.
It's not when you think about the policy
I'm
manual.
just looking at like a conclusion.
I'm gonna let you guys
Okay.
finish up. Thanks.
Thank you,
Okay,
Sarah. Have a
thanks,
great
Sarah.
weekend.
You. Bye.
Bye. Okay.
And
Um,
like 27 pages isn't horrible. One of the
no.
first two pages are like a cover and a table of
Yeah.
contents,
And
right?
so here, well, and then let's finish. So
Yeah.
conclusion, I'd have to look at what I said here. So like convince me, why do we have the mission, the vision, the core values? Just because like that's just good stuff to be reminded of.
That's kind of what I was thinking is it's
Yeah.
like it's not policy, it's something we have voted, but we also like
Fundamental.
it feels like exactly it's like so fundamental. You should
Yep.
sort of have it in a
Yep.
reference manual.
Yep. Yep.
But also
Yep.
maybe it should go again, that whole conclusion. I was like,
It
I'm
could
not
be
sure
the
this is a
begin.
conclusion. I think it really probably goes at the beginning.
I was
So
just going to say that it might
yeah.
even be the introduction.
Yes, I think so,
Each
especially when the
year,
welcome isn't there anymore, because the welcome's really going into the new person section.
and then
It-
here I'll say this, and I'll say for the millionth time, I'm
yeah,
just saying stuff. I don't care. I
yeah,
mean, I care, like it doesn't matter to me tremendously.
yeah.
Each year, I don't love this. Maybe I'm just sensitive. Each
Mm.
year after an election, the composition and character of the school committee changes. Right now, I already feel like someone's lecturing me.
Yeah.
It sounds
Well, it's
pedantic
someone
to
from
me.
2003
Okay,
because
okay.
that
It
came
is
from
not
2003.
simple to maintain cohesiveness. And now I'm like, okay, you're opening with like a negative.
Yeah, I hear
Tensions
you.
and
Yeah.
conflict. Welcome to school committee. Tensions and conflicts arise in the
Well,
group.
you know, I actually thought like for all people think that like our current like, whatever they are, our current dynamics are somehow unique. This paragraph made me like realize that
Uh,
like we think we're so special and we are not that special. It was a
well, and it's,
reminder.
I actually didn't know who wrote this or when it
Yeah.
was from.
And I actually don't know. Apparently, I want to say in the handbook even it alluded to it took its work from like a handbook in like the
So,
1970s or something. So I was like, we are really not special here.
but I actually do, I I like the school committee is motivated by or just like, or just, this is probably what I said. I kind of like Brookline school committee members work hard. They
Yeah.
balance being like the rest, everything above there to me is pedantic and negative. And
Mm.
just feels like if I was, it just is like, and like, sure, it's a group. There are dynamics, but like, do we need to talk about that in a handbook? I don't know. It feels like self-fulfilling prophecy.
I don't know, Carolyn. I think that like there's a lot of people who
Hmm.
don't know
Yeah,
organizational behavior theory, don't know,
yeah,
like, there's so much that
okay.
people, they
Yep.
come to this cold.
Yeah.
But I hear what you're saying about, I agree with you that
No,
there's
that makes
negative
sense.
bits in there, and maybe it's like you should, like it's normal for groups to like, maybe it makes it a little bit positive, right? Like this
Right,
is sounding a
right.
little bit like your body in adolescence, like it's normal to fight with people or
Those
whatever.
feelings you're having are normal.
Exactly. But it's kind of like that. I
Yeah,
mean,
no, that
right?
makes no, and that makes ton of sense. No, you're convincing me, but I think I do like approaching it more like this Brookline has a particularly large school committee. Everybody brings a perspective.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know, whatever you were saying. And
But
this
and
was
I think you're right. That bit is also in there a little bit, and like saying like exercising independent judgment, and sometimes that can lead to disagreements, right? But like there's a way to think about this of like, but there's an opportunity for all of us to disagree while maintaining like civility and blah blah blah.
collegiality.
Yeah, collegiality. Exactly. And like like that has to be a goal of the committee, is to like maintain that. But I do agree with you. And if you're willing to move this section up to or why don't I move it up? Because
Okay.
it's hard for you to do the
I
formatting
think
stuff.
it's the introduction. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right. So it can be the
Yeah.
introduction, and then we'll move
Okay.
that welcome. When I go through and read the comments and the back and forth between the two of you,
Okay.
again, probably tomorrow, I'll move that up. I'll move the welcome if you're a new school committee member into that section. One other question I have though is, and we didn't talk about this, is like, was there anything where there was like a huge thing that is really important for school committee members to understand that wasn't already like as a heading? Because I wasn't sure.
I don't know. I'd
Okay.
have to, because I have to say I probably wasn't paying a ton. I don't know.
Okay. Betsy, are you still there? Because I think that would be a really awesome, like Betsy, you're the like front line of like school committee questions. So
Just repeat that. What would you like?
it was really just like, what is the handbook not like, not necessarily that the content of each section is right, but like, what are like, did we miss any big topics that people ask about that
Yeah,
like
okay.
we should develop content for?
Okay.
And because like right now the big sections are like this rules and norms, then like I'm a new committee member, like what are my first days are going to be like? Then it's like, what is a meeting usually like? Like what are the sections of the
Well, here's
meeting?
something that came up between you and I recently, Mariah, which was
Yeah,
like, I have, I still to me a mystery is like, how do things get on the agenda?
that
And I
was in
think that
there.
that's
Yep.
in there.
That's in there,
Um,
docketing. Yep.
and maybe as I'm saying that, maybe I don't know. I think it's worth thinking about whether we want to have a whole section of like expectations of the chair or roles and norms of the chair. Like,
Well, I have a section called People You'll Meet at the Committee. And part of that is filling in like the chair does this. It's almost like like the student representative is this, the assistant is this. And so it's not like taking the description of the assistant job from the um policy manual, but it's more like how do you actually what does Betsy do during the committee meetings and that kind of thing. And so the role of the chair, I think, could also be like that, right?
because, and I'm on the second, like, honestly, it's a like, if I'm interested in whether something can be docketed and I email the chair, can I expect the chair as a courtesy to respond to me?
Right.
Like,
And
that's
that's
the
covered
kind
in
of
the
thing I have.
docketing. That's covered in docketing already. Exactly that.
And then there was the thing of like, how do meeting materials, that could be a thing, right? Like,
How to meeting materials, what I
Like
forgot.
like if you want something shared with the committee at a meeting,
Oh, yes, right. That makes
what are
sense.
the processes for that?
I
Is
think
there
that might
like
be in there, but we'll have to
gatekeeping
double
around
check.
that?
Yeah,
Because
I,
I've never really thought this came up with the calendar. Like
yeah,
I had done some mock-ups that I thought would be helpful for discussion because it's too esoteric to be like throwing out dates that you have to imagine in your mind, but I
right.
wasn't expecting them to be meeting materials insofar as I didn't expect them to be like publicized. And so that was like, I mean, and that might be too much level of detail.
But I
That
think
was
that's
something
actually
that came up
no,
for
no,
me
no,
that
that's a
I
really
didn't know.
important point because once you present them at the meeting, they're
Yep.
supposed to be public and they get posted,
Yep.
right? So
Which
I
is
think it's
also fine.
but it's important for people to realize that like if they send something to the committee for consideration for the meeting, they need to know it's like gonna live in eternity on for the
Yeah.
meeting, right? It
Yeah.
might make them think to themselves, I'm gonna read off of something as opposed to, I don't know. Just to be helpful for people to know.
Yeah. And
Betsy,
I didn't
anyway, I
mind
think,
if they became meeting materials, but I didn't intend them. Or maybe the argument you and I had was I wasn't intending them or the lack of clarity.
yeah,
I wasn't intending them to be suggestions or drafts per se. I really was intending them to be just like visuals of a conversation that I knew we were going to end up happening. Was going
yeah,
to end up happening, which was like, what if we move
yeah.
blah blah to blah blah, and then people are like blah 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 blah, blah and talking to their neighbor.
But
So
then it also ends up like, this is important though, because it's subtleties
right,
that people don't really understand. And like, for example, in the case of the calendar, I think it actually does have to be published. Like, so someone might, like, there's the thing they might want to talk about, the thing they might want to have for consideration. It's important to help people understand these subtleties.
yeah,
I gotta go, but Betsy,
okay,
when you get a chance, Betsy,
Yep,
will you just like look at it and make sure like that
we're
we
not
haven't
missing
missed the
any.
most like obvious things to tell school committee members?
Yep, will do.
Thank you.
thank you, Betsy.
Have a
You're
good
welcome,
weekend,
guys.
both of
To
you.
be
All right.
continued. You too.
Oh,
Good
we
night,
didn't,
everyone. Oh,
Betsy, will you do one more favor? Can we think about scheduling our next meeting of this group?
sure, yeah.
Okay.
I'll send something out then and figure out what works for everybody since we
Yeah, I
don't
think it's gonna
decide.
have to be early January is my guess, but yeah,
Okay,
see what you get.
okay.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Night, everyone.